Welcome everyone. I'm Eric Becker, and this is my lovely wife, Jill Becker. And we're so excited to be here with you today and so proud of this amazing panel that we have to talk about projects and hopefully inspire all of us to do more in our communities. I want to start with thanking Logan and Aaron and Blair for the incredible work that they do in helping to make this happen. I'm so appreciative, and a special shout out to Logan, who I think even thought of this whole idea. So a great thanks to you for organizing this and being a youth leader yourself as a young person. So very, very excited about that. Karma for Cara, as we all know, is about service and repairing the world, trying to make the world and certainly our nation a better place through service, bringing people together, caring about each other, and helping each other. And through that, also really supporting the idea that we all can do more, supporting leadership and entrepreneurial and creative thinking, and this whole concept of giving back, having a service heart. So when we think about what inspired us to be here, it really did start with our daughter, Cara. And Cara started volunteering at a young age. I think Jill's going to tell you a story about that.
We were having Thanksgiving dinner, and Cara was talking about how there were so many people that couldn't have Thanksgiving dinners. And she came up with this idea of going to visit an old age home and bringing dinner to them. So as a family, the 5 of us went over. And honestly, the night before, she was anxious about what would it be like to be in an old age home. She'd never been in one. Would the people be scary or you know, whatever thoughts she was having. And we ended up bringing dinner and bringing a little boom box and a microphone, and we served and we sang songs, and it ended up being this wonderful experience that guided her and guided us towards more experiences like that.
And another example, when she was probably only 9 or 10 years old when that happened, but it really did inspire our whole family to give back more and to find opportunities to serve, not just to make a donation, which of course is a wonderful thing. We all need financial support for our projects, but to really get involved and to see what makes things happen. And another interesting example of that I think of when I think of Cara was when in 2008, when she was a senior in high school, she had a medical emergency and passed out and had to be picked up by the Owings Mills Fire Department ambulance. And when luckily she woke up and she got out of the hospital, and after she settled in, she asked questions about what had happened and how she'd gotten to the hospital. So when we told her about her ride in the ambulance and we followed behind, she then asked if she could go to the Owings Mills Fire Department and meet the people, the ambulance team. So I took her over one weekend and we ended up meeting these volunteer firemen and women and the actual driver and EMT who took that ambulance. And we met and we talked and they described what they do. And at the end, Cara said, well, I'd like to do a fundraiser for you. And so she ended up
blown away.
And she ended up taking this little card table and a couple of folding chairs, and she would go over to, there was a Trader Joe's near our home, and she'd go out there and sell tickets for a raffle to raise money for the Owings Mills Fire Department. So she raised the money through the raffle, and the prize for the raffle ticket holders was a big screen TV. She went to Best Buy, met with the general manager, and persuaded him to donate a TV. And then when the raffle winner won the TV, she delivered the donation to Owings Mills Fire Department, and then they took the TV on a fire engine and delivered it to the person that won the raffle. And it was just this incredible experience. And I have a beautiful letter from the fire department where they basically said that no one had ever done anything like that before. And they've done so much good in the community. So those are some examples that have inspired us. And to have this platform now with Karma for Cara, where we can share the inspiration and we can help fund and seed these projects and support young entrepreneurial service leaders, volunteers who want to do great things in the community is an incredible privilege. We feel incredibly lucky to be able to do it and are so proud of all of you.
So far, Karma for Cara has funded 247 microgrants. And I can't tell you how proud we are to be a part of those those grants.
Which are literally from kids 11 years old to 18 years old. And about a year ago in Chicago, we actually funded a program there where we went beyond 18. We're interested in following our young leaders and seeing if there are ways that we can support them once they're off to college and beyond. So it's really been wonderful to follow everyone, and even to see someone as young as 11 years old. It was an incredible experience. A young boy in Boston who was very upset by the homelessness that he saw, and he asked his mom what they could do, and they did a packing project where they packed backpacks, and he went with his mother even at 11. And maybe a year or so later, we were watching the State of the Union with President Obama, and we're watching this on TV, and suddenly they said, and we have one of our special guests tonight in the audience, and there was this young man from Boston, which really blew us away. So excited for the program today, and
can't wait to hear from all of you.
Absolutely. So with that, we'll turn it over to Logan.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for that introduction, and we're definitely really glad to have both of you here today, as well as all of our panelists and Blair and Aaron from Cara for Cara as well, who will be helping out. And the goal of this was just to get everyone together to celebrate all the amazing work that our youth leaders have done and successful microgrant alumni like all of you that are here, and just kind of talk about the different ways that we can continue to be involved to prepare for future microgrants if you're joining us as someone who is thinking about applying, and to just consider what kinds of things we can do to continue serving our community and being engaged, especially in this year where it seems so challenging and so strange and so uncertain. So as we talked about before, the highlight of the day will really be the presentations. So we'll be getting to those in just a second. But I'm just going to go quickly through a couple of the kind of housekeeping things about the webinar platform so we all know and feel comfortable with how to use it. So this is Zoom webinar. A lot of you in the room today are joining us as attendees. So you will be able to communicate with us using the chat and Q&A functions at the bottom of the screen. I see a lot of you have already posted in chat, which is really great. Feel free to use that throughout the day to talk to us, to share praise for the presenters. That's the best we can do as far as like applause go. I know it's a little weird not being able to clap and cheer and yell, but feel free to use that chat box to share all kinds of positive energy throughout the day. The Q&A box at the bottom is a little different. You can post questions in Q&A that myself and all the other presenters in the room will be able to see and answer. So throughout the program, I'm going to be saying, are there any questions? And what that means is I'll be scanning that Q&A box and having our presenters scan, and that's what we'll be looking to see what questions we can answer for you. You're also welcome to ask questions in chat as well, but try to keep them, if they are related to a presenter or to a project or the microgrants, try to keep them to Q&A so we can keep them all in one spot and make sure you get your answers. One other thing to talk about, so our presentations, all of our presenters have prepared videos that are pre-recorded, so we'll be showing those to try to minimize as much technical difficulties as we can, but with Zoom, it's always hard to know. So we'll try to make the videos available after the conference as well for you online, so if you do have any trouble seeing or hearing anything today, follow up with us afterwards, we'll make sure that you can get all the content. But all of our presenters are here in the room as well that you'll be able to engage with throughout the program. And first of many times I'm going to say it, any questions? All right, perfect. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Shreya, who's going to introduce herself and her project as we get ready to pull up her presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dean. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Shreya Venkat, and my sister Isha Venkat, who will be joining us soon. She's just finishing up class at school. But yeah, so I am 18 years old. I'm a freshman at Georgetown University, majoring in global health. And my sister is a sophomore at Broad Run High School. And we both live in Northern Virginia, and we are the co-founders of a nonprofit organization called Nest for Us that provides volunteer solutions to the community to make the world better through kindness. And as you'll see in the video, we have 5 main programs through which we basically inspire people of all different ages and backgrounds to give back in a way that interests them. So really excited to be here. Thank you so much, Cara for Cara, for this incredible opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Eric and Ms. Jill, for that amazing story. It was really inspiring to hear. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. And feel free to ask any questions right after the video. I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, definitely keep those questions going in Q&A. And without much further ado, we're going to pull up her presentation video.
Hi everyone, I'm Shreya Venkat, a freshman at Georgetown University. And I'm Isha Venkat, a sophomore at Broad Run High School. First off, we want to say a huge thank you to Mr. Dean and the Cara for Cara organization for this amazing opportunity to speak to you all.
So we are the founders of Nest for Us, a teen-led nonprofit with a mission to provide volunteer solutions to the community in order to make the world better through kindness. So since we were young, giving back to the community was something we did often with our families. And our mom would bring Isha and I along to volunteer at school and community events, even back in elementary school. And that was where we were first introduced to the world of community service. But the giving didn't just start with us. The giving spirit has actually been in our family for generations. Our parents always share many of our family's service stories with us, experiences of our grandparents, and even our great-grandparents.
Yeah, and hearing all the stories of our family giving back and experiencing the joy of serving others at an early age really inspired us to want to make a positive difference in our community, along with a few other important realizations.
Yeah, so initially we noticed 3 key issues in the community that we wanted to tackle: food insecurity, lack of volunteering with a passion, and diversity and inclusion. When we started volunteering, we noticed so many homeless people who didn't have access to food. We also noticed that so much food goes to waste daily in our community. So homeless people and food waste. We bridged the 2 together and decided that our first program, Nest Nurtures, should focus on reducing food waste and feeding the hungry.
Yeah, and another thing we noticed was that most people do community service solely for hours or some other incentive, which we believe defeats the purpose of giving back and volunteering in the first place. So that's why we decided to provide a variety of programs that allow people of all ages and backgrounds to give back in a passionate and fun way.
Yeah, and through social media platforms, we strive to advocate for positive change in the community and look to promote diversity and inclusion by welcoming people of all different ages and backgrounds to our volunteer family.
Yeah, and we formed Nest for Us 4 years ago. And since then, we are so proud to have grown from just a small project with just us two to an impactful organization with over 1,000 volunteers of all different ages and backgrounds who altogether have contributed over $650,000 in value of volunteer hours. And through our 5 core programs, Nest Nurtures, Nest Tutors, Nest Cares, Nest Buddies, and Nest Inspires, our volunteer family aims to spread hope and love to each and every person we come across.
We live in Loudoun County, which is the richest county in the nation. But still, the issues of homelessness and food insecurity are highly prevalent here. In fact, half of the world wastes enough food to feed the other half. And that sparked the idea of our first program, Nest Nurtures, through which we've served over 75,000 meals to homeless people and low-income families at over 38 different shelters and food banks in the area.
And we also have corporate partnerships with Panera Bread and Starbucks, and also work with our local schools and community, through which we've rescued over 100,000 pounds of food. In addition to Nest Nurtures, we have Nest Tutors, which is our free virtual tutoring program, through which we've impacted kids in over 50 schools and involved over 850 youth nationwide.
Yeah, and because of school closures due to COVID, we've decided to donate our time virtually to educate students who lack proper education. And so we've partnered with global organizations to provide tutoring and mentoring services, as well as that cultural connection to underprivileged children and students struggling to learn English, while contributing to the United Nations global goals. And we've also been able to donate over 10,000 books to underprivileged kids, as well as school supply kits to those most vulnerable via our book drives.
Yeah, and interested in doing more, we formed Nest Cares, which is our care package program, through which we've donated school supply kits for at-risk kids, assembled over 35,000 blessing bags for the less fortunate, provided disaster relief, and created over 10,000 notes of compassion and hope. And we even partnered with the Laya organization and packed 5,000 care packages to benefit homeless veterans and hurricane victims as well.
We also provide birthdays in a box to underprivileged children through Nest Buddies, because we believe that every child deserves to celebrate on their special day.
And our newest initiative that we launched this year is a leadership program called Nest Inspires, with a mission to network, empower, succeed, and transform. And through this program, we offer interactive workshops and webinars, keynote presentations from community leaders, but most importantly, the opportunity to make new friends and connections. And through this leadership program, we've hosted 5 virtual leadership workshops for our community.
So one of the biggest barriers Nest for Us has faced has been getting adequate financial resources. So with 5 established programs, a lot of funds are required to keep each and every one up and running. And so financial support is super crucial to grow our organization onto an even larger scale. Since we're a teen-led organization, we were self-funding and relying on in-kind donations, community support, and mini grants from local business partners to run our programs efficiently.
Yeah, and we've been so thankful to have received a few grants from Cara for Cara. They've been especially helpful to us to continue providing those essential services to those most vulnerable in the community through our 5 core programs.
Yeah, we're so grateful. Thank you. And so during the pandemic, we have been continuing to rescue food from our community, make care packages for the less fortunate, virtually tutor students from around the world. And even back in the spring, we mailed graduation congratulatory cards to the class of 2020, who I was actually a part of, to show our support to them during this hard time.
And we also launched our Power of Positivity campaign, where we use our platform to spread positivity every single day with our special hashtags and just sprinkle a little kindness on social media, a place that can sometimes be filled with a ton of negativity. For example, for food rescue, we use our hashtag Fight Hunger Friday. We thank our community for their support on Thankful Tuesday. We offer motivation on Mondays, things like that. And to join our volunteer family, please check out our website and our social media for more information. So our website is www.nestforus.org. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Cara for Cara, again for your support. We are so grateful for your organization and everything you all have done for us and for the community as a whole. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye.
All right, thank you guys so much for that video. Everyone can see okay? See and hear pretty good? All right, great. And that was, once again, an amazing introduction to your awesome project, all the work that you guys have been able to do and how much it's grown over the years. We're just really happy to have you here today. And I want to open it back up to you two to talk about anything else that you'd want us to know. And then we'll look at some questions.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can jump straight into questions. I know that Mr. Eric and Miss Jill had asked a question and wanted to just address that first. So basically asked, what was one thing that surprised you, and was there a time when something happened and it made you realize how you impacted that person's life? And so we have a lot of stories about how we've impacted even just one person and how much of an impact just 30 seconds can make on someone. Mm-hmm. So Isha's here, is my sister, everyone.
Hi.
So she'll be talking about that story.
Yeah, so I think one of like the first really important events that really happened in our lives was one day after we served at a shelter in DC. It was like a couple years ago, and we were driving back and just talking about how our volunteer experience was that day. And we approached a traffic light and saw a man sitting on a crate with a sign that said, "Hungry, need food." And on instinct, we had reached into our bag and grabbed some snacks that we had kept, just in case that we got, if we got hungry after volunteering, which happens a lot. And without hesitation, we rolled down our window and called to the man. And after all, he was definitely hungrier than we were and probably hadn't eaten in many days. And the moment he heard us, his eyes literally glowed in happiness, and he ran over. Literally, he was just so full of joy as we dropped the food and water into his hands. And as if reading our thoughts, he was saying, today I was praying that someone would be generous enough to give me food because I don't have enough money to pay for food, or I haven't eaten in many days, and thank you for making my day. And we smiled and told him that everything would get better, just have faith. And we rolled up the window, he nodded so thankfully at us and ran back to his crate. And I think that's really one of the reasons why we do what we do. I mean, even if we just impact one person, we're helping one person's life be better, and that's really an amazing thing. And like Shreya said, it really just takes 30 seconds, not even, to really turn someone's day around and make someone smile.
Yeah, we really want to show that you don't have to do some like big grand gesture to make a difference in someone's life. Even honestly, the small things are the ones that make the biggest differences. So we really want to show people that you don't have to be of a certain background. You don't have to be rich or poor or anything like that. Like, it doesn't matter. As long as you have like a giving spirit and a kind heart, you can make a difference. And it can just impact so many people's lives. And yeah, and I see two other questions. So the first is, how are you balancing college life and managing your organization? So this is a question we get a lot. How do we manage time between academics, extracurriculars, and then still have time to volunteer and do NEFS full force? Something that we like to say is basically that you don't need to have the time, you should make the time to give back and help others. Because think about this. What do people enjoy doing in their free time? Maybe watching a movie or hanging out with friends. We all block out time in our schedules to do things like this, right? So why can't we do the same thing with community service? It's easy, it's fun, and you get to meet and connect with new people while helping those in need. So it's like a win-win-win situation. And we really think that community service has honestly strengthened our time management and organizational skills, so that we can pour equal amounts of effort into everything we do. And of course, the most important like ingredient, we would say, is passion. We enjoy everything that we do. Never do we go into whether it be academics, extracurriculars, NES for us going like, oh, we have to do this again. No, it's more like, oh, I want to do this again. When is the next time I can do this? Can I get more people involved? What are some new ideas we have? So it's going in there with the positive outlook, with the excited outlook to help people, rather than for like hours or some other incentive. So that's really what motivates us to keep giving back consistently. And then the third question is, do you provide services beyond people on your county? Yes, we do.
Yeah, we provide services across the DMV in regards to our food redistribution program. So we partnered with shelters across DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and we also provide opportunities where anybody around the nation as well as around the world can give back. We have our ongoing, actually, our Notes of Encouragement campaign for throughout the winter, and anybody can mail in notes to our house. All that information is on our calendar, on our website, with a list of all of our events. Also, you can be a tutor from anywhere around the world, because technology, first of all, has been so impactful in connecting all of us, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And being able to, not just help people where we are, but around the world is super, it's just been super amazing. And we do provide opportunities where people can also give back, even if they're not close by to us.
Yeah, and our website is www.nestforus.org. So if you check there, it has information about our programs. It has calendars with the upcoming events, like Isha was talking about. And just we always like to say the easiest way to make a difference in your community is just spread positivity and kindness. It's so easy to do, but it makes such a big impact. So that's something that we want to leave you all with. And thank you again, Cara for Cara, Mr. Dean, for inviting us. This was great. Does anyone have any more questions?
Very, very impressive.
Thank you.
And I have a quick comment. Like, I know this isn't Shark Tank or something, but I just want to make a comment, which is that there was an application, a young woman who had an idea. She was in young teens, and her idea was to go to shelters and to get older dogs that were the ones that were the last to be adopted, and to match them with elderly people that maybe had lost a spouse or were lonely. It was such a fabulous idea. And I learned that she lived not far from us, so I volunteered to be her mentor. And we failed. It was such a beautiful idea, and she would set up her little shop in front of the PetSmart, and it just didn't. There were just too many things, too many issues. So if we had the dog and we had the match, there was concerns about the cost of feeding and of
Care.
veterinary care. But my point is, one thing that is so impressive in what you just went through with us is that once you got your model figured out, you've expanded it. So not only did you succeed with the first piece that you went out with, but then by using the skills and the relationships and what the network you set up, you've been able to expand into other areas. And I think that's so impressive. So our hat is off to you. Our hat is off to you. And
Great job.
yes, great job.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thank you both so much for being here today and for creating that presentation and sharing that all with us. Feel free to use the chat box to post your URL for your organization, any social media information that you want to share with the group so people can contact you and get in touch that way. We'd love to have that in the chat. All right, moving on to our next presenter in the lineup. It's actually 3 of them that came together to work on one project, Produce with Purpose. So we're going to introduce Emma, Emily, and Arushi. So if you guys want to just introduce yourselves really quick while we pull up your video.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. My name is Arushi. I'm 18, and I'm a freshman at UT Austin.
My name is Emily Smith. I am also a freshman at UT Austin, and I'm 18 as well.
And I'm Emma. I'm a freshman at Harvard, and I'm 19. And I just really quickly wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Dean and just the Karma for Cara program in general for all that you do and for letting our project be what it is today. We founded the Produce with Purpose project when we were juniors in high school, and the project was to take imperfect produce and distribute it to low-income elementary schools near us. And you will see more about that in our presentation shortly.
And thank you both so much. Pull it up really quick.
Hello, my name is Arushi, and I'm joined with my two teammates today, Emma and Emily, and we're going to be talking about our organization called Produce with Purpose. And here we have one of the photos of us together with a vice principal at one of the elementary schools that we hosted our produce stands at. So we will be talking more about that later.
So just to touch on the origins of our project, we all signed up for this class in our junior year of high school called the Wicked Problem Project. And the idea behind the class was really just to give all the students an hour of the day where they could work on a project of their own interest. And we all shared an interest with food sustainability and the environment. And we really wanted to channel that interest into finding a way that we can help our own community. So that led us to realizing that we wanted to start Produce with Purpose. And that's really how our project began.
Yeah, so talking more about imperfect produce in specific, it's basically reduced price produce that may look bruised or imperfect by certain grocery store and restaurant standards, but it's completely edible, fresh, and sustainably sourced. And billions of pounds of imperfect produce does go to waste every year. Vox estimates that it's about 30 to 40% of all produce that is thrown away, and it results in about $160 billion in waste annually. So it's a really big, prevalent issue that we were sure that we wanted to address.
And so originally our plan was to take this produce and sell it for a reduced price at local low-income elementary schools near us. But after debating this a little bit further, we decided that we didn't want to have to really sell it to them. We'd rather just give it away because it was imperfect produce and it was just a new concept for them. And so we didn't feel like putting a price on it would be right. But in order to do this, we had to fundraise. And so at first we sold some candies and cookies at our high school, but that wasn't really enough funding for us. And we spoke to our teacher and she actually recommended to us Karma for Cara, and we applied and we did get it. I remember the day we got it. It was on my birthday. And it was a very exciting day for all of us because it meant that we could actually truly achieve our project. So yeah, using this fundraising really allowed us to put our project into motion. And we were able to contact 2 local farms in our area. One of them was Eden East Farms and the other was Johnson's Backyard Garden. And these really generous farms worked with us and sold us their imperfect produce at a reduced cost. So we were really lucky to connect with these farms, and they really helped our project work out.
So, talking about our produce stands themselves, we would basically plan around our days and go at the end of a school day to visit these schools and host the stands. And as you can see, there were a lot of people. I remember the first one, we went in not really knowing what to expect. And we were scared that maybe, you know, parents wouldn't be interested, but we just remember being overwhelmed and having such a positive response. And so these produce stands were really a lot of fun. Also, I remember at the first produce stands, we were talking with one of the parents and they mentioned that they weren't really sure how to use some of the more obscure fruits and vegetables that we were giving. And so next time we came back and we made little food samples and recipe cards just to give ideas. And so these produce stands were really a lot of fun and there was great turnout. So it was kind of the motivating factor behind everything that we did with Produce with Purpose. And some of the statistics, we were able to help out over 100 people, 100 different families, and give imperfect fruits and vegetables to them. And it also was about 330 pounds of produce that we collected and donated.
And so going over some takeaways from our project, we really did not expect our project to grow the way that it did. It was really special to be able to connect with our community in a way that we hadn't before. So our project, there was so much work that we had to do behind the scenes, contacting people, writing documents, tracking our progress. It was really nice to see the project grow, and we really learned that you can start small with a project, and working together you can keep it going, and with enough momentum you'll be able to really make a difference. Yeah, I think a lot of times as kids in high school we're often told, oh, once you get older then you can do this or then you can do that. But we really learned as high schoolers that we can still do something to make a change with not too many resources. Luckily we had the Karma for Cara grant, but a lot of it was mostly just our own leadership skills, which we definitely had to build on a lot. We sent lots of emails, and perseverance was also a big thing that we learned from this. I think we sent over 10 emails to elementary schools before we found Allison Elementary School, and it was just a great experience overall.
Yeah, so talking more about future plans, our main one is really to apply for more Karma for Cara grants and use that money to continue hosting produce stands after the pandemic when school opens up again, of course. And another kind of one that we started looking into was contacting restaurants and grocery stores, because they also have a big issue with this imperfect produce that they throw away. And so reaching them was initially kind of hard, but we would like to revisit that and get more sources for our imperfect produce. And below there, you can see our website, producewithpurpose.weebly.com. And we wrote a lot of blog posts tracking our progress and basically described more in detail about what we did. And so if you guys are interested, please feel free to check it out and donate if you can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you guys so much for that presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to the three of you now to talk about anything else. It's so weird with no applause in the room. It feels unnatural, but if we could all be in the same room, we'd all be clapping and yelling and celebrating you guys. Feel free, the three of you, to add anything else you'd like to talk about with your project, and then we can get into any questions that might come up.
Yeah, we can go ahead and just jump into the questions. First, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our high school teacher who is actually here with us, Miss Wilson. We are so thankful for her. But anyway, let's see. One piece of advice to a young person who wants to make a difference. For me, I think the biggest advice that I would give is to not be afraid to reach out to people and to ask for help. And like, we never would have applied for the Karma for Cara grant if it wasn't for our teacher. And also in terms of reaching out for businesses, there were a lot of times that businesses wouldn't respond, or businesses might say, unfortunately, we can't help you, but we just kept persevering and reaching out. And I think just perseverance is very important.
And going off of what Emma just mentioned, part of that perseverance has to do with flexibility with your projects. So we had an idea for our project at the very beginning that changed over time. Like, we were constantly having to revise our project and reach out to new people. when things didn't go how we expected it to go. So definitely be flexible and know that your project will evolve.
Yeah, and my thing, it kind of goes off of what Emily said, is starting small. So we actually had initial ideas about maybe things that were on a wider scope, but then we really thought about, hey, like what's going on in our community? Like what's going on with food swamps in Austin, like with Title I elementary schools in Austin. And so starting here really helped us kind of realize that we could make a smaller impact and then keep growing it. And that would be more effective than starting bigger, because then you oftentimes, you know, have, it's just harder to reach out. And so I think starting small and then, you know, continue growing is probably a good approach for if you want to make a change in your community first.
I also see that there's a question about the actual produce, which I would add to, and that is, were there any types of produce that were really difficult to manage? And then was there anything that was a favorite or particularly good for this program? Yeah, popular and good for the program.
I can start off by saying I know Swiss chard was not a favorite. We wrote a blog post and it was called "So Much Swiss Chard" because one of the farms gave us a full crate of Swiss chard, and a lot of the families just weren't really sure how to cook it or how to use it. And that's when we started using the recipe. So I think we made a pasta recipe including Swiss chard. But I think probably the most popular produce was carrots, I would say.
Another thing about Swiss chard, really hating on the Swiss chard today, it's imperfect produce, and so it actually, a lot of it we couldn't even give away because there were like random holes and things for whatever reason. And so like imperfect carrots or something were way easier, especially for other people to kind of look at and be like, oh, this is not gross. And so yeah, we also gave like cabbage and those kinds of things, and they all seem to be pretty popular, but some of the more obscure things, we even gave persimmons, and like more obscure fruits and vegetables were just harder in general to like get people to be excited about.
We love the recipe idea. That was so creative. And of course, what folks learn from those recipes, even beyond the produce that they've received, they can enjoy that forever.
And Swiss chard is a tough sell. Let's just
Yeah, I remember for one of the recipes, we made a smoothie recipe, and one of the members of I think she was like one of the members in the elementary school, told us that she was going to use the smoothie recipe for her next faculty meeting and give it to everyone. So they were very big successes.
Great. Good job.
Yeah, really impressive. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you three so much for being here today for that presentation and for taking those questions so well. One thing I wanted to highlight too that I think is really unique about your guys' story is that you three came together through a class project and really started all of that from something that was just kind of temporary in your life and did not have to grow into this big meaningful project that impacted hundreds of people. And so it just kind of shows that there's lots of little opportunities that pop up around us, even when we're young and it doesn't feel like we can do much. But high school programs and college programs and classes and clubs and churches and groups, they all present opportunities to create something really cool and meaningful for the community around you. So thank you three so much for doing that and for being here today.
I agree, Logan, by the way. Power of partnership, the fact that the three of you took a risk together and can overcome the fear of what might not work and support each other and encourage each other is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
We are going to pass it on to our next presenter in the lineup, which is Morgan. And so Morgan, if you want to just give a brief introduction to who you are and what you're going to talk about, and then we will play your presentation.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Suchin. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm a sophomore at University of Virginia. First, a big thank you to Mr. Dean and the Becker family. Without them, none of this would have even been possible. And so my project focuses on basically my home city, Baltimore, and targeting food insecurity within the city at the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center, giving back to them, but also at my own high school growing up, learning about the food insecure population, the homeless population at my high school, and creating Pikesville High School's first free food, toiletry, and clothing pantry. So thank you so much.
All right, we'll jump right into it.
like to introduce myself. My name is Morgan Suchin, and I'm a second year at the University of Virginia, majoring in medical anthropology, and I'm on the pre-med track. However, I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Second, I want to thank the Cara for Cara Foundation and the Becker family. Without them, none of my events could have happened. Growing up in Baltimore, I knew Cara's cousin. I was extremely moved by Cara's story and her passion for giving back to others. Cara inspires me to help make the world a better place. After learning of Cara for Cara and their generous microgrant program, in 2015, I applied to my first of 4 microgrants. As a freshman in high school, I started the first Medical Explorers Club at Pikesville High School. Through my Medical Explorers Club, I have connected with professionals in healthcare and have arranged weekly speakers to come and support a diverse group of my fellow students in learning about new experiences and exposure to local healthcare professionals in the Baltimore area. I strive to not only enlighten the members, but to connect them with internship possibilities, as well as guidance for college and career readiness. We also conducted experiments, looked at healthy lifestyle practices, and did a yearly dissection. I also thought about activities we could do to give back to the community and those who are less fortunate. I had an internship at Johns Hopkins Medicine researching food insecurity and access to healthy lifestyles in Baltimore City. I found that many in Baltimore lack a family support system or access to a quality education, medical care, food, and shelter. I felt that we needed to broaden our focus to make volunteering a huge priority for the Medical Explorers Club. I also volunteer at the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center, which is a homeless shelter in downtown Baltimore. I saw firsthand how important it is to give back and how many people depended on our assistance. After seeing how food insecurity impacted my own home of Baltimore, I decided to apply for my first Cara for Cara microgrant to fund a Feed the Homeless event through my Medical Explorers Club. My goal was to make over 100 brown bagged lunches and dinners for the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center in Baltimore. We had almost 50 participants, and the whole experience brought together my diverse school and community. Surprisingly, our enthusiastic group ended up making over 300 bagged lunches and dinners. We even had to run out and buy more food at the grocery store, which was incredible. For me, it was the most unbelievable feeling seeing my fellow students working side by side to help those in need. As you can see in some of the pictures I have here, this is a picture from our first event, me and my brother and a fellow Pikesville High student donating to the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center with the staff, and just one truckload of the donations. After seeing how eager the club and my school were in giving back to others, I applied and was awarded 3 more Cara for Cara microgrants. My brothers have continued to apply for the microgrants and organize Feed the Homeless events for the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center. In total, Cara for Cara has generously provided 5 microgrants, which has led to the Medical Explorers Club at Pikesville High to create over 5,000 bagged meals, 500 toiletry bags, and 50 blankets and hats and glove donations for the Weinberg Housing and Resource Center. As you can see here, we have another Feed the Homeless event pictured, and even have had 2 carloads of donations. I also decided to research my own Baltimore County Public School and discovered that 34% of my own classmates were on the free and reduced meals program, as well as were homeless. So I decided to use some of the Cara for Cara grant to create Pikesville High School's first free food, toiletry, and clothing pantry. As you can see, we have a plethora of toiletries available, food options for the weekend or during school hours, and clothing donations that anyone and any student can access anonymously whenever they need it. Cara was an incredible young lady. She left behind a tremendous legacy of always giving back to others, and I was overjoyed and honored to receive a grant in her name. My brothers and I have continued to apply for the grants to support the Feed the Homeless events and the food pantry at Pikesville High. Cara has also inspired me to support the world around me, with my brother and I creating Cody.org. After dealing with medical conditions on my own, I felt isolated, so we created Cody.org. Cody is an anonymous, safe, and private forum to discuss medical conditions, diagnoses, musings, rants, or any interesting thoughts related to medical conditions ranging from asthma, diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, anxiety, depression, acne, and much more. Users can also post to the COVID-19 Healthcare Forum. While away from peers and friends during this troubling time, you can feel isolated and alone and worrisome, so Cody.org aims to connect you with others who are feeling the same way as you are. Once you sign up for your free account at www.cody.org, you can obtain and provide valuable information to support others and provide feedback to benefit yourselves and your peers. The goal behind Cody.org is to relieve some of the anxiety and confusion inherent in this time of isolation with a focus on mental wellness and health. The reason I mention Cody is because of Cara. Cara's initial grant and her legacy have inspired me to give back through the Feed the Homeless events, but also in continuing with her legacy through Cody.org. It is programs like the Microgrant that inspire others around me in the world to create a cycle of giving back in any way possible. So I encourage you to try out Cody, apply for the Microgrant, and see how you can give back to others in your community and the world around you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Right, thank you so much, Morgan, for putting that presentation together for us. And I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Fantastic.
Yes.
My gosh. So impressive.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys listening. First, I will answer Eric and Jill Becker's question. So, honestly, the moment that I think that I saw my idea take action and like saw that it happen was maybe when it wasn't allowed to happen. Going to a public high school, I found that there are some issues dealing with like county rules with the food pantry, going through like the counseling office. So there are just many kind of bumps in the road. And literally when we got the grant, I remember getting the grant and going to one of the assistant principals saying, I have this grant, I would like to schedule the cafeteria for this time to do the Feed the Homeless event and use this room for the food pantry. And then there was like all these kind of forms and administrative stuff I had to go through. So I think in that moment, even though it was a setback, I did it, but I was able to see that, wow, this is actually happening, and now I have to do this whole process to get it started. And then ultimately seeing the whole community come together at Pikesville, because we're a very diverse high school, and I thought maybe 10 kids would come to the Feed the Homeless event, but when I had to go out to the store because 50 participants came and had to use some of my own money to buy it, I was like, wow, happening. And I applied for the microgrant, I think more and more each time, up to, the maximum amount. So I think in that moment I saw this is something that my community is passionate about, and I'm going to continue with this as many times as possible.
Very cool.
Somebody asked about Cody.org. So I just kind of mentioned Cody to show where I am now, but also how Karma for Cara has really inspired me to give back. You don't stop at just the Feed the Homeless after graduate. My brothers are doing it, but also how you can give back to society even when you're in college. So Cody.org is, inspired by my own medical condition, even stories like Cara, or my brother, it's actually named after a young boy who my brother's friend was named Cody, who also passed away. And it's kind of just the idea that you can give back. You don't maybe know that somebody, like Laya may have a condition, but I don't know about that. And it's connecting with somebody else that you're not alone, and there's support for you. To spread Cody, actually, I partnered with the student government at University of Virginia. So because I know somebody else mentioned earlier, starting small and then growing, because I'm at school there, I'm able to kind of have a community support at the campus. So we're kind of focusing with the population there and then growing, but it is open to anyone. But that's how I've been able to kind of spread the word and let people know it's available to them by starting small and then growing. But my ultimate goal is to bring it to every university nationwide, bring it to high schools, middle schools, even, any community members who would like to join, because it's the idea of knowing that somebody in California and somebody in Maryland may have rheumatoid arthritis and have the same story, but not know that they exist. So again, people like you sharing our stories, it's how we spread organizations like this and Cody, but ultimately social media, sharing it with clubs, organizations, and schools is how I'm spreading it. So yeah, I think that was all of the questions, unless I missed one, but thank you so much.
No, thank you. Just really proud of you and how you've continued on and come up with new ideas. One of the questions earlier was about when you're in college, how do you manage your time? And so that you've been able to come up with something to do and that could really have a lot of impact. That's a very smart idea. So good for you.
And it doubly hits home for me because Pikesville's my alma mater.
Go Panthers. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was so great, Morgan. Thank you for your presentation, for being here today to answer the questions. Feel free, as with the other presenters, to post your social media links to your sites, everything in the chat so everyone can have access to all the really great stuff you're creating. And it's also super great to see that you've been able to kind of come up with a new project in a new direction that is especially so relevant now that we're all socially distancing and being at home and on these Zoom events from our own apartments. Like having a Cody as a resource that's completely online is really cool and really innovative. So thanks so much for sharing all of that. All right, we are going to pass it on to our next presenter, which is Laya. And if you want to introduce yourself really quickly, just give a little intro and then we'll play your video.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Laya Neelakandan. I'm 18 years old. I'm also from Baltimore, graduated from McDonough School, and I'm now a freshman at Northwestern University majoring in journalism. Like everyone else, I want to say thank you so much for having me here today, Mr. and Mrs. Becker, Mr. Dean. This is an incredible opportunity. And also major congratulations to my fellow panelists. Your projects are so inspiring, and it's been so interesting to hear what y'all are doing. So congratulations. So I'm the founder of All Hands in Baltimore, which helps the homeless in Baltimore while working with young children. And after the video, if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, without further ado, here we are.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laya Neelakandan. I'm from Owings Mills, Maryland. I'm 18 years old, and I just graduated from McDonough School this past June, and I'm now a freshman at Northwestern University. And I'm also the founder of a social justice initiative called All Hands in Baltimore. So when I was in elementary school, I heard a statistic that almost 3,000 men, women, and children experience homelessness on any given night in Baltimore, according to Healthcare for the Homeless. And almost half of the population lives 200% below the poverty line. So when I heard these statistics, it was really jarring for me, and I knew I wanted to do something to help them, but I didn't really know where to start. So my inspiration is my first grade teacher and now my mentor, Mrs. Mary Catherine Irving. She's an incredibly selfless and empathetic role model in my life. And when I was in first grade, she taught my classmates and I what service means, what it means to give back. And since then, over the years, she's just continued to inspire me to do whatever I can to give back to my community. So I decided I wanted to start a project with Mrs. Irving as my mentor to help the homeless in Baltimore. But first, I needed funding. So I researched online for organizations, and I found the Karma for Cara Foundation. I first applied in 2015, and I was able to easily find the application on the website, type out my responses to the questions, and I submitted it, and I was honored to receive that first grant. So what I used the funding for is making projects with Mrs. Irving's first grade class to help the homeless in Baltimore. So we made projects like trail mix, sweet treats, which are marshmallows and pretzels covered in chocolate and sprinkles, handmade fleece blankets, and hygiene kits. And over the years, I was fortunate enough to receive 5 grants from Karma for Cara over the 5 years that I worked with them. I matured with my projects, and the projects really flourished over time. So I was able to add and modify projects. So for example, I noticed that a lot of the energy that goes toward helping the homeless is focused in the winter. And of course, they do need help in the winter. It gets very, very cold here. However, it also does get scorchingly hot and unbearable in the summer. So I decided to run a drive in my school for gently used bags and backpacks, which I then filled with summer essentials and distributed to the men and women in the summer because that was really important. I was also able to expand who I worked with and who I spread awareness to about homelessness. So not only Mrs. Irving's first grade class, but over the years, I started working with more of the elementary division. And the reason I chose to work with young children is because I realized that they're going to inherit this world. And if we want to make a difference, we have to start with the next generation. And also, if we teach them service while they're young, it becomes a part of them as they grow up. And that's really important to me to be able to empower the next generation. And I also was able to include my middle and high school friends in some of the projects as well, just to raise awareness of the plight of homelessness. And the second part of my project was delivering the items to the men and women living on the streets of Baltimore. And these were really touching and moving experiences for me. I learned their names and their stories, and I learned to not judge why they're on the streets, but just to recognize that it's my civic and humanitarian duty to help them. And I've had some really funny and interesting conversations with them. I know what type of food they like. I know where to find them. I really developed some special relationships with the men and women. And the whole experience has been truly rewarding in a way I didn't think was possible. So my impact, I have been able to raise over $12,500 to help the homeless. I've delivered over 200 handmade fleece blankets, 1,000 bags of trail mix and sweet treats, and hundreds of hygiene kits and backpacks filled with summer essentials. I've also been able to directly help over 1,300 people. And I've also been able to spread awareness to my entire school. So not just the elementary division that I work with, but also through speaking at assemblies and running drives in the middle and high school, I was able to spread awareness of homelessness to them as well. And I've also noticed in the past few years, some of the children who were in Mrs. Irving's first grade class a few years ago have started their own initiatives to help the homeless or to give back to their community in their own unique ways, which has been really inspiring for me to see. And lastly, I am passing on this project to the next generation. Something that was really important to me was that I didn't want these projects to end when I graduated high school, because these men and women still need help. So I'm currently mentoring a few children at McDonough who are going to continue these projects with the elementary division and with Mrs. Irving so that Baltimore's homeless citizens continue to get the help that they deserve. So lastly, I want to leave everyone with a few pieces of advice that I've learned over the years. First, there is no such thing as a small act of kindness. Every single bit counts. Often when I'm delivering items to the men and women, they might not need or want the items that I have, but they just want to talk to me. We just have random conversations, and just showing them that I care about them and that I want to hear what they have to say can mean the world to them, and it can be the reason they make it through another day. So don't ever think that what you're doing is too small that it can't make a difference, because there really is a ripple effect, and you are definitely making a difference in someone's day. Next, find your passion and use it to make a difference. You have to ask questions and be a leader and be kind and empathetic. And most importantly, you have the power to change the world, and don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. This is something I really, really love about Karma for Cara, is their support and belief in the young generation in making a difference. Because at the end of the day, the next generation is inheriting this world, and we have to start making a difference and be the change we wish to see. And often we're told, you're too young, you can't make a difference, you don't know anything. And that's not true. And Karma for Cara also believes that that's not true. So don't ever think that just because you're young, you can't make a difference, because you definitely can. With that, I would like to thank Karma for Cara for their endless support and encouragement in my endeavors over the years, and for empowering the next generation to make a difference in this world. And also thank you for the opportunity to share my story here today, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you so much.
All right, and thank you so much for that presentation and for that really great inspirational speech at the end.
Wow, great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to add before we jump into questions?
No, I think we can go straight into questions. The first thing I saw was Mr. and Mrs. Becker said to mention the mentor, the role of the mentor, which I think is really an important point. So my mentor was my first grade teacher, like I said, and she's really a role model in my life. Like I said, she's really selfless and empathetic. She's just someone I've always looked up to, and she's also she's just very inspiring. And so I think if anyone out there is looking for a mentor, just to find someone in your life who you really look up to, who is doing maybe what you want to do, and who can offer you some advice and some guidance. I think it's really important to have a mentor if possible, to also just have that really special relationship as you're doing your project. So yes, and then I also saw a question, how did you continue to understand the needs of the homeless? Great question. So I think the best way to understand the needs of the homeless is to just ask them. So every time I went out, I would ask them if what I was giving them, like, for example, one man likes this really specific brand of razors. And I never thought that, oh, I should buy razors, but they need razors. And so asking them what their needs are and making sure I'm keeping up with that, and not just like generalizing or giving them what I think I would want or what someone else would want, but like really specifically asking them. Like there were a couple women who like pink and purple socks. So things like that, just asking them what they like, so that I can best cater to their needs. And then I also saw a question, how did you find the next generation of kids to take over your project? Great question. I actually didn't find them, they found me. So they were in Mrs. Irving's first grade class. Also, I think they're on this call right now, so thank you for coming. They were really into the project when they were in first grade. And even after they left first grade, they still wanted to continue giving back, and they wanted to find ways that they could get involved as well. So they kind of reached out to me to say, like, how can I help? Because we want to do something as well. And so then that's kind of how I found them and how I've been mentoring them. And then I think the last question was thinking about doing something now that I'm in college post-pandemic. I'm doing virtual school right now, so I actually haven't been to the city that my school is in, Evanston or Chicago, but obviously there's a great need for help everywhere, especially for the homeless. I mean, in any major city, you're going to find homeless people who need help. So post-pandemic, I'm not exactly sure what it's going to look like yet, but I do want to find a way to get involved at Northwestern and in the city of Evanston, the city of Chicago, to give back in whatever way I can. And one last question from Mr. and Mrs. Becker. If you had a grant that you could pass along with the project, would that help more of our grant recipients? I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
What I was thinking is that if you have a project and you're going off to college and you're trying to get a group of students from your school to take it over and adopt it, if you said, this project's proven itself, and so K4C will automatically give you your first grant, pre-approved, would that make it easier, do you think, for grant recipients to pass their projects along?
Yeah, I think that would be a really good thing to implement. And I think it would also be interesting to see how once the project is passed along, how the next group of kids makes it their own and like adds a project or modifies the project. So yeah, I think that would be a really interesting thing to do. And I think that was all of the questions. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here today, for presenting and for answering all those really great questions, and for introducing us all to the amazing work that you've been able to do and then pass on to other people, which is really, really cool and inspiring. One thing I also wanted to highlight that you talked about was getting to know the needs of the community you're serving is a huge, huge thing. And that's really what separates service from self-service, because we can all do good things to make ourselves feel good, but it's really something special to do something to meet someone else's needs and to fulfill wants and needs and things that they have in their own life selflessly. And so buying razors or buying the pair of socks that someone wants and taking the time to meet with people and be compassionate and connect with them, that's true service. And so we're really happy to have you include that in your presentation and your answer. Thanks so much. All right, I'm going to pass it on now to Chase, who's our next presenter in the lineup. And so Chase, if you want to just introduce yourself really quick and we'll pull up your video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chase Hartman. I'm 14 years old, a freshman at Sickles High School in Tampa, Florida. I'm the co-founder of Read Repeat, a project that I started with my friend Vance in 5th grade. And we, up to this date, we've donated over 130,000 books to all 50 states, to libraries, a lot of schools, hospitals, and many more other places. And I would just like to thank Karma for Cara and all of my mentors and all the people in Hillsborough County Public Schools for helping me out with this project, and enjoy the video.
Guys, I love this story. This is Vance. This is Chase. Fellas, say hello. And this right here is where it all starts.
Best friends Vance Tomasi and Chase Hartman created Read Repeat, collecting gently used books to donate to students in need.
Hi, I'm Chase Hartman, co-founder of Read Repeat and Eagle Brothers. That was me at my first book delivery in 2016 at Robles Elementary School. It was chaos. 5 media crews, 1,400 books, 1,000 kids. I was 10. Now, 4 years later, I've collected and donated over 140,000 books and raised $58,000 to purchase high-interest books for kids. But let's rewind. Vance and I have been best friends since first grade. From Cub Scouts to NEHS, we were always volunteering. We were both so driven to make a difference. As soon as we heard kids in our area didn't own books, we knew we could help.
When our NEHS group did this event called Boogie for Books, to enter this event, you had to bring a book. And so we brought a book, and they collected about 500 books that year, but me and Vance wanted to do more.
Well, we were with our NEHS group, which stands for National Elementary Honor Society. We were doing this program called Boogie for Books, and it's basically a party where the fee is donating one used book. And and it was for the books went to kids that were homeless.
Oh, wow.
So that gave us the idea, and then it basically just kept on going and going.
That's right, we kept going. In fact, we set some goals and then reset them and set them again and again. That's an important part of the process. First, you need to know what your mission is. At first, we just wanted to get as many books in the hands of people in need, especially kids. Second, set some goals. Know what you want to strive for. And third, be passionate about it.
It's been a passion for us to do this, and it's been a really fun experience.
When I was a kid, I grew up with a lot of books, and knowing that children in my community didn't have books and didn't have access to them upset me, and that motivated me to give them books.
They had set a goal really early on to donate about 25,000 books, and at the time, they were at maybe a couple thousand books, and my first instinct was, where are they going to get 25,000 books? But it was energizing to see them reach out to all of their clubs and extracurricular activities and run book drives, and the books just poured in. And then once they got to 25,000 books, they immediately set a new goal of 50,000 books, and then they set a goal of 100,000 books. I've been pretty impressed as a parent that they have taken a goal and achieved it and reset it to a bigger goal, and have kept doing this for 3 straight years.
Our goals changed as we got into the schools and met the kids.
It means that they're very caring and nice, and they think about other children, and that they want other kids to grow up and be something.
Well, overall, our favorite donations are to Title I schools, and we really like it because the kids get to pick out their own books most of the time we're there, and we like to see the smiles on their faces.
Read Repeat formed a partnership with Hillsborough County Public Schools. They found us on Twitter, and for 4 years we've had a great relationship swapping books. But we met the kids in each school, and we realized we needed to change up our plan just a little. The majority of the kids we met were minorities, and we wanted them to connect to their reading. Harry Potter, Autumn Brown, Junie B. Jones, great books, but we realized we also needed more books with diversity so the kids could see themselves in the books they read. That's when I reached out to Karma for Cara for help and also ran a GoFundMe. Karma for Cara gave us $1,000, and we raised another $1,000 and bought books for Cleveland Elementary School. Kids picked out 6 used books and 1 new book with diversity. It was a hit. Characters like Sophia Martinez, Elroy Drakes, Little Shaq, and Zoe Sassafras were swept up and taken home in summer reading packs.
We're here at Cleveland Elementary. We're about to donate 3,000 used books and 600 new books from a grant for Karma for Cara.
Thanks, Karma for Cara.
In the meantime, we knew we needed funding, and we also knew we needed publicity. We applied for some awards. I highly recommend seeking out awards for grants, funding, scholarships, and publicity. We've won a lot of awards. Check out this list. But here's some highlights. In 2017, I won the Florida's Prudential Spirit of Community Award, and our Read Repeat project won the EPA's Presidential Environmental Youth Award, one of the top 10 elementary school projects in the nation.
Now let's talk about this medal you're wearing. So I got this medal from the Prudential Spirit of the Community Awards, and it's an award system that awards young students for their community service. So I went to Washington, D.C. back in May, and we went and got awarded by Michael Phelps.
And not even 13 years old, they were invited to D.C. and awarded the President's Environmental Youth Award.
Well, next will be the National Award for you guys, right? And yeah, Vance, you'll be wearing that medal, right?
And he was next. Vance actually won the National Gold Level Award in 2019, and it came with a $5,000 donation. So guess what we did with it? We bought books with diversity for another Title I school in our area, and showed up on Halloween to give away the books for a book spooktacular. That's when I had a conversation with a reading supervisor at HCBS who told me about the need for dual language books in our county. You see, Hillsborough County is made up of 35% Hispanic kids, and 21% of all families in Hillsborough County speak Spanish as their primary language. She told me that many kids enter school not even knowing English. I had to help. That's when I thought big. I applied for the Lightning Community of Tomorrow Award, which came with a $25,000 scholarship and $25,000 for a project of my choice. I wanted to bring dual language books to 6 elementary schools in my county that have a high percentage of Spanish-speaking kids, and I won it. It was amazing. And right before the pandemic closed hundreds of schools, kids were given dual language books for them to read at home with their families. My point is, you gotta be flexible. Your project is going to adapt, and so will you. It will take you places you didn't know you would go, places where there's more need for your help. And lastly, where are you going? That's a great question. I formed a nonprofit recently with my little brother Zach, the founder of Zach's Planet. We called it Eco Brothers. Together, we are now running our projects like a business, and since he's 3 years younger than me, he's also my succession. Zach's already working hard. He was recently promoting his environmental causes on The Doctors and The Drew Barrymore Show, where she gave him $5,000 to help the world.
And I know that you have a GoFundMe, and I saw that you needed like an extra $1,900 to reach your goal. So if it's okay, we want to give you that money and just kick it right to that goal line today. And it's our pleasure. And you know what? I'm just going to do 5,000. Let's just go 5,000.
Thank you.
Together, Zach and I are collecting books, upcycling used stuffed animals and making them into pet toys, doing monthly beach cleanups, and I'm planting a butterfly garden this month at my elementary school for my Eagle Scout project. Vance and I are also still working hard in our county, sharing books with the students and changing lives. My last words of advice are, don't stop. You may get frustrated. You may hit a wall or feel overwhelmed sometimes by the amount of work you need to do. But realize you are changing lives and making the world a better place. No matter how old you are, you can make a difference.
I hope they get happiness and an adventure out of them, because books help inspire kids to do great things, and great things help the world.
All right, and thank you so much for submitting that video, Chase.
Can't get the smile off my face. That is amazing. You are so impressive.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
You can jump right in with the questions.
Yes. So first one, how do you get the word out to get book donations? Well, we started off just in our community, so it took a lot of talking with all of our friends, but when we found out that we could make a lot of social media and that social media helped a lot, we started an Instagram account and also a Facebook account and a website with our email attached on the website so that we could get connections. And through Twitter, we met the reading department of Hillsborough County, which is our county, and they've helped us a lot connect to schools. Which was really important because we were just asking the schools like separately, but then now that we have the Hillsborough County partnership, it has just really helped us a lot connecting to the schools. How do you create a book list and choosing great titles? So we've actually just had a lot of input from the schools and just reading the books. We feel like all the books from First Book, which is where we get our new books from, we feel like they're just really good books overall, and they've been picked out by teachers, and I've seen them in a lot of classrooms that we've went to. So those book titles have been really great for us. For our used books, a lot of our used books are really good too. We've seen a lot of Harry Potter, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Those pop up a lot and the kids love them, so we love to donate those. How can books be sent to kids during the pandemic? So, you know, during the pandemic, we've definitely slowed down our deliveries. At the end of last school year, we haven't been delivering that much, but during the summer, we've reached out to Hillsborough County and found out ways that we could start donating to the schools again, which is we just have to clean the books and leave them out for 72 hours at the school before the books can take them, which is fairly easy. And yeah, I would just like to give a big thanks to Karma for Cara and all the help that you guys have done with my project. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Just a quick comment, Chase. One is we have a book, which is Cara Cookie Volunteers, and it's for the youngest of kids to inspire them around the idea of service. And so you'll let us know how many books you want, and we will send you brand new Karma for Cara books.
As many as you want.
In boxes, all safe to be distributed. And the other thing that I think is interesting is the recognition that you've received. You know, some people might be intimidated by recognition. I think what's so interesting is how you've used it to promote your idea and to raise money. And I think that's really terrific. And so hats off to you for that. Well done.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to say the recognition and the publicity is so important for your project, whether it's creating social media or winning awards. Both of them are really important. And I would just like to say, don't be intimidated, because starting your project is going to be small, and growing it with social media and awards is very important. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, well done. You've made books cool too, by kids giving kids, other kids books. It makes books cool. Great stuff, great idea.
Yes.
And definitely, Chase, feel free to share your links, social media, all that stuff. We need a lot of really great things to promote, so feel free to put those in the chat today so everyone here can join you online, follow your story, and connect with you. But thank you again so much for that really great video, for the presentation, and for being here with us. I'm going to pass it on to our last presenter in the lineup, which is Alana Atkins. Alana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, my name is Alana Atkins. I am 13 years old from Atlanta, Georgia. My organization is Bottles for Life, and we do care packages for the elderly. But before the video plays, I would like to say thank you to the Karma for Cara Foundation, to Mr. and Mrs. Becker, to Mr. Logan Dean, and all of you guys' projects are amazing and very inspiring.
Thank you so much, and let's hear your video so we can hear about how amazing and inspiring you are as well.
Hi, my name is Alana Atkins. I am 13 years old and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and my organization is Bottles for Life. Bottles for Life started out as a 5th grade project called the GMA Project. GMA stands for Give Myself Away, and it's basically a community service project. What I chose to do is I chose to give care packages to the elderly. The first year we did this, we only did 1 floor, but they enjoyed it very much. But the other floors were sad that we couldn't do them. So the next year, we applied for a Karma for Cara grant. The first time we applied, I did not get it, but the second time we applied, I did get it. With the money from this, and with also help from hotels that graciously donated toiletries to us, we made more care packages and we did all 7 floors. With the money that was left over, when we went to California, we did another facility called EE Cleveland Manor. They only had 1 floor, but they enjoyed it very, very much. A few months later, we applied for another Karma for Cara grant so we could do the care packages again for Christmas. During Christmas, We did all 7 floors again, and with the help from hotels, we even had some care packages left over, which we then gave to other people so then they could give to relatives. They enjoyed it very much, and we were planning to do some more this year, but because of the recent pandemic, we'll move it to next year. You can find updates about the project on our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, which is Bottles for Life. You can also go to the Bottles for Life website for more information. I would like to thank Carmen for Cara for giving me this amazing opportunity with their microgrants and on this conference. I hope you have a great day, and thank you.
Her name is Alana Atkins. How she canceled $1.4 million in debt. She's going to tell you all about it in about 15 minutes. So, Alana, first of all, tell us about your company.
So our company is called Bottles for Life, and we make care packages.
Wow. You have a lot of people that have donated and donated their time, and you do it a lot, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I am so speechless, and I'm about to cry again. I can't believe I got a 12-year-old girl family.
To help eliminate over $1.5 million in medical debt.
How can, because I know that there are a lot of people like, oh my God, who is this young lady? How can we get a hold of her? How can we help her? Can you tell everyone what your website is?
Our website is bottlesforlife.com, and also you can follow us on our Facebook page.
All right, thank you so much for that video, the introduction to your project.
Great job.
Thank you. Before I answer any questions, there are a few things that I forgot to add in the video.
Sure.
We partnered with the NAACP and we made a grant, so we have granted over 20 people under the age of 14 lifetime NAACP memberships. We did do that, and then we also have started a new project where my brother actually did this one. He wrote a book for people who mainly like kindergartners and first graders who have trouble reading or want to get ahead in reading, and it helps them with their sight words. And I would also like to thank Carmen for Cara, and I would also like to thank my family who helped me and my church. And for some questions, okay, what's a piece of advice that I have for a young person who wants to start their project? If you want to start your project at a young age, then you definitely need recognition, like Chase Hartman said, and also get help from your community and your like the neighborhood will help you, because we got help from the hotels. All we did was ask them and we called in and they helped us. And people in your neighborhood will generally be very nice if you ask them. How we canceled medical debt, I'm pretty sure we just I don't understand the full process totally, but I know that we buy it and then with the donations we pay it off. So we buy it and then we pay it off. And then another question, what inspires me to do so much at a young age? Mainly because well, one thing is I like proving people wrong, and those people who say oh, you have to be older to do this, or you can't do that much when you're young. And that's one of my inspirations. It's really fun to prove people wrong. And also helping people, it just gives you that really nice feeling inside. And yeah. And also my grandma is in the audience, so hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Grandma.
Love that. I think that we've always felt, being lucky enough to have a kid who was interested in service like all of you, that we've always been inspired and amazed by the power of young people, and that they can do so much. And that I think that our generation many times underestimates the power of young kids and the energy and how smart you are and the access you have now to technology and knowledge. So it's an amazing resource that our country has, and that is this next generation. And what you guys will do in the future is going to blow all of us away. We're so proud of you.
Yes, I think that every single one of you in the room today probably has the same like proving people wrong spirit that Alana has. It's just kind of it's a nice like fire to keep you moving and keep you going and make you realize that you can do a lot more, even if it's just for that, like kind of like sticking it to them. I'm a leader now. That's a huge mentality that we definitely like want to have young people adopt and to go into service and to taking on these projects, is that you are a leader now. You're not just the next generation of leaders, not just tomorrow's leaders, but today with your own communities, with your projects, your schools, with everything. So thank you so much, Alana, for that, for your presentation and for taking those questions. I think that we got through all of them.
Can I say one more thing? Because Eric and I have been getting so many thank yous from all of you, and we're so happy and proud to be able to support you all. But we couldn't be doing any of this without the support of Blair White. And the musical, Blair White has just been the woman I'm sure you've all been in touch with, who has looked at every application and been our minds and our words and our thoughts. And she is just an amazing woman and support to us. So thank you, Blair, for all of your hard work.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for acknowledging me. I appreciate it. And I have communicated with you guys a lot, and it's great to see all your faces here and hear your stories, and all it does is inspire me. You know, I mean, this is it. Y'all are inspiring, and I really am proud to be a part of the Karma for Cara Foundation organization. I really am. So thank you.
I feel like you're all our kids, and really it's just amazing the goodness that you're bringing to the world, the positivity. I mean, we live in such challenging times. All you have to do is pick up a newspaper or watch the TV for 5 minutes, and you're bound to see some negativity from the tremendous challenges, and you're bringing such energy and passion. And as Logan said, you're not the leaders of the future. You're proven leaders. You've proven yourself. And
we're
Alana,
going to watch you to see where you all go.
See where you go. And Alana, you talked about proving people wrong. And I think that, you know, you are at this point you're leading the way and showing other young people that they can prove people wrong too. They can do more than people think that they can. And I think that's amazing. Good for all of you.
All of you, really.
Absolutely. And with that, we've wrapped up the presenter portion of our program today, but I'm going to ask you guys all, presenters, if you're able to stick around, because in this next section, we're going to talk a little bit more about what the microgrant program is, how to apply, the parts of the application, and I would love help from you all with covering some of those questions and giving some kind of experience from your perspective on when you were applying, what was it like doing these different things. So we're just going to jump in really quick and go over it pretty quickly. Update on time as well. We're running a little bit faster than scheduled, so we'll probably be out of here a little early. Same situation as the rest of the program so far. You're welcome to use the Q&A box during this section to share any questions or anything that you might have, and we're just going to kind of go over some basics of the microgrant program. Just for reference, this document that I have up here on my screen that I'm screen sharing is the conference guide that we emailed out. You can also find this, it's published online on our website right now, karmaforcara.org/summit. You can download a PDF there. This is just kind of a quick reference guide that goes along with today's program. It includes bios of all of our amazing presenters. It has bios for myself, Blair, and Aaron, the staff that are in the room today, and then some information about the microgrant program as well. So I'm just going to kind of jump in and just cover a few things from this page, just to give you all kind of an overview of what this program is for any of you today that might not be familiar. So the Karma for Cara Youth Microgrant Program is a seed funding program that's designed to help young leaders and youth projects get started by providing that upstart funding that you might need to cover costs associated with your project. One of the biggest barriers for students and young people getting involved in service is just finding the support to pay for those things that kind of need to happen. You know, there's materials that need to be donated. Maybe you're building something, so you need to get tools and physical things to make your project happen. Those things, even though they're really small, they can be the biggest barrier. I mean, money is always a factor. A lot of our presenters today talked about fundraising being one of the biggest challenges. So the microgrant program is really designed to help meet that need for young leaders, so that way you can focus on getting your project started and turning your ideas into action for your project. So the microgrants are up to $1,000 that can be awarded 4 times a year. So we do 4 rounds of microgrants a year. And as you heard from a lot of our presenters, many of them have applied for several rounds and gotten microgrants a few different times to support their projects in different stages. The deadlines for the microgrant every year are January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. So those are quarterly deadlines. So the way that works, we get a lot of questions about the timing of submitting your application. You want to have your application submitted by that deadline. So by basically December 31st, like at midnight before it turns to January 1st, that's when the cutoff is. Applications submitted after January 1st would be reviewed in April, at the April 1st deadline. You're welcome to do it that way. If you want to submit an application for April in January, that's totally fine. But if you want to have your application considered in January, you need to submit it ahead of January 1st to be considered in that round. And we do, like I said, we do 4 rounds a year. For the timing of the projects, so we have these 4 rounds. Generally, projects are being funded for the 3-month period following the deadline. So if you're applying for a project in January to be considered January 1st, we would be looking for you to be doing that project or getting it started maybe through like March or April within that same time frame. So it's not typical to apply for a project that's like a year out in advance, but generally within that kind of 3-4 month range from the deadline. And we'll ask some questions about when your project is planned to happen. And sometimes we do ask applicants to apply later or to have their application move to a later round, depending on the timing of the application and the timing of the project. As far as general eligibility goes for the microgrant, just to cover some basics, the applicant must be 18 or under. That's what really sets this program apart. Cara, this is a youth-focused organization, and as you heard from all of our presenters today, they were all young leaders when they started their projects, and all under 18 or under when they applied for the application. And that is one really nice thing, is that a lot of people who are able to pass down their projects have kind of more students, younger siblings, other people in their organizations that can meet that criteria as you get older. But you do the first time have to be under 18 to apply. If you are a teacher, an advisor, or a parent watching this who has students and other people that you want to help support with a microgrant, you're welcome to be part of the process, but the applicant must be the student leader who's going to be most involved with the project. It should be their name who's the lead applicant on the application, and they must be under the age of 18 or under at the time of the application. One last kind of general eligibility thing, which you'll find in the last sentence here. We currently only fund projects in the United States. So you must be in the US. It can be anywhere in the 50 United States, but it must be within the US. I know today our presenters, a lot of us are in the Baltimore area or are from Baltimore originally. And so we do fund projects across the entire country, just to make that clear. I'm going to pause really quick to take any questions and jump out of screen share. Do you have any questions so far kind of about general eligibility or about the process of the microgrants or what they are? All right, great. We'll keep the Q&A open, so please feel free to throw anything else in there. One last thing I wanted to highlight on that page of the guide is these 2 boxes about the approved and unapproved expense examples. So the microgrant, like we said, is seed funding. It's designed to help fund those big ideas, to get your project started, to get you moving along. And there's lots and lots of things that the microgrant can be used for, but there's also some exceptions of things that it can't be used for. And you'll want to know the difference when you're applying. So examples of approved expenses would be things that you need directly for your project. So maybe you're building a community garden, you need to purchase seeds and seedlings and plants and like tools and garden materials. That would be something that would be pretty typical. Building supplies, if you're going to build like a bench or a community space in a park, building supplies like that would be part of your project. That would be part of the microgrant. Also, if you're doing donations, a lot of our presenters today talked about applying for supplies to make donation kits or bags or books. Donations, as long as it's part of a project, as long as you're purchasing supplies that you and other students and like your club, your group, your organization will be making something from and doing something with and then distributing as part of an activity, that's generally okay. However, we generally don't fund items that are directly for donation. So that would be just purchasing like a pair of socks and then immediately donating those directly to another organization. We want to see a little bit more involvement because the idea is really to promote leadership, to promote service, and to get you involved in the whole action of thinking about, well, how do I get these supplies together? How do I bring people together? How do I find partners? How do I find these organizations? There's a lot of really great learning and a great service that happens with the stuff beyond just direct donation. So direct donations are one that we typically don't fund directly with the microgrant projects. A couple other ones that are really simple and black and white are transportation costs, stipends, payment, scholarships, things like that, and then space or facility rental fees generally can't be covered with microgrant funds. All right, I'm gonna check the Q&A really quick. Any questions? If a nonprofit already exists, can a new initiative within the nonprofit be eligible for a grant? It's a question from Kayla. Yes, so we do have existing organizations who will apply for funding or for seed funding with the microgrant project, and that's totally fine. The biggest things are you just need to have that lead youth applicant who is 18 or under at the time of the application, and they need to be significantly involved in planning the project. So you can have an existing nonprofit that wants to maybe start a new program, start a new garden, or maybe it's an existing program, but there's a youth leader who's coming in and taking it over and taking the initiative. They're welcome to apply for a microgrant underneath that same nonprofit. So thank you so much, Kayla, for that question. Let me just check for more. All right. Kayla, your question also ties really, really well into the next section too, which is parts of the application. And I'm going to jump down the page just a little bit to where it says sponsoring organization. So this is the third part of the application that you can find on the Cara website. Sponsoring organizations would be like an existing nonprofit, a school, a church, a community group who is being part of the process, along with that student or that young leader who is applying for the application. So when you fill out the application, you can list a sponsoring organization and you can list a contact from there as well. So if you are a student who's part of an existing nonprofit, you could list the advisor that you're working with, you could list your parent, you could list your teacher, someone there who you want to be involved to help you out. And that would just reflect that you are working with that organization, but you would still be considered the lead applicant. So the first section, applicant information, that's going to be the student, and that person must be 18 or under and in the US. And then the sponsoring organization, which is the third section of the application, is where you can list schools, existing nonprofits, or other groups. The biggest and most complicated, longest part of the application process is going to be the project information section, which is part 2 of the application on our website. That's going to be where you actually describe your project in detail, talking about coming up with a name for your project, summarizing what your project is going to do, what you've already done, what you hope to do, a detailed project budget. So you'll get to dictate how much you want to request, up to $1,000, and then what things that money will go towards. You'll also estimate a number of students who are going to be involved in your project. So if that's going to be volunteers, other students who are working on the leadership team with you, people who you'll impact, you'll come up with that estimate as well. And so I'm going to exit this screen share for just a second and come back to the room because I wanted to pose a question to a few of our panelists. So anyone who's still with us, if you can speak maybe a little bit about what was the budgeting process like? This is an area where a lot of people have anxiety if they haven't done applications before asking for money. So it can be a little complicated and scary and intimidating. So for any of our presenters in the room today who've received a microgrant, what was the budgeting process like for you?
I can share a little about that. So one thing that I did to mine was the Feed the Homeless event and the toiletry and the food pantry. So I knew in order to make the most out of the microgrant, I would go to like large wholesale places like Costco, BJ's. So what I went with, it was going like onto those websites or also going to the stores first and then kind of doing a budgeting and saying, oh, I'll need, X, Y, and Z loaves of bread to make 1,000 sandwiches. So this is how much it's going to be per loaf from the wholesale store. So it's kind of like thinking ahead and planning, saying I need these 25 things to make the sandwich and baskets, and then saying how much is that going to be as an estimate and kind of doing a ballpark around there. But again, I think it's a lot of planning and just kind of, making sure you have all of your things together. But that's, the best way to be a leader is making sure you have everything prepared and are organized.
That's great. Definitely a really big part of it is just the planning ahead, being organized, and especially doing that little bit of research into how much things are going to cost. So prices, coming up with a little bit of like an idea, a detailed list of what things you're going to need. The budgets, like I said, we ask you to directly request how much money you would like, up to $1,000, but you'll need some kind of information and data to back up that amount that you're looking for. And so that's going to be price of all your materials, supplies, and everything. And so there's a little bit of work that goes into it ahead of time. And so what I would definitely recommend is, if you're considering applying and starting the application process, take a minute and, using the guide that I just showed and that you all received in your email, those items that I listed in the gray box on page 7, those are things that you'll want to kind of start to think about ahead of time before applying. So maybe you start a separate document where you kind of plan out the costs of your supplies, and start writing a little description, a summary, a story of what your project's going to do. Start trying to estimate how many people will be involved ahead of time, because it'll be easier to work that in. The rest of the application is really, really, really easy, and you can do it in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It's going to be your name, email address, phone number, address, and then the names of people who are going to be helping you out. But the only part that requires a little bit more working and a little bit more thinking is going to be that section on the details of your project and how to tell that story. Another really great thing that we've had with the presenters here today is they've all kind of demonstrated you a way of storytelling when it comes to asking for support from other people. Because this is what's going to be happening in your application, is you're telling us the story of who you are, how you got started, how you identified what it is that you're passionate about, what it is that you care about, how this has turned into a project, and then what you're going to be doing about it. That's the story that we're looking to see when we read these applications and when we review them, is this whole kind of picture, all within a very, very, very small amount of space, not very many words at all, a clear picture of who you are and what it is that you're trying to do. And it can be challenging and it can be hard, but as you guys saw today with these presenters in the room, it can be done, and it can be done really, really well, especially when you become so passionate and so knowledgeable about the subject that you're working on. It becomes really easy to start writing about it and start telling your story. And there's lots and lots of ways to practice and to do this at home and with other people, just by having conversations with friends and family and talking about your passions, asking them to support your project, asking them for input on your project. These are really great ways to start to refine your storytelling, so then you can tell it into the application and to us. Any of the presenters in the room, again, I'll open it up to you guys, want to talk about anything as far as like how the application process went? Did anyone not get their application the first time? Did not get a grant the first time they applied, I guess. Elena, yeah. How many times did you apply? Was it twice?
We applied 3 times, I think.
Okay.
We didn't get it the first time, but the next 2 times we did.
Gotcha. Anyone else in the room not get it the first time? The rest of you are all stars. This is totally common, totally normal. A big thing we always tell people when we have to turn down applications in a particular round is apply again. A lot of times it doesn't necessarily mean that there was a huge problem with your application. It doesn't mean that your project's not worth funding. It doesn't mean any of these things. Sometimes it just comes down to the fact that we will have hundreds of students all asking for funding in a certain round, and we have to make tough choices about who we can fund in that round. Sometimes it comes down to projects that are very similar. So if you have a really, really great, really cool, super fun community garden, and there are also 175 other community gardens applying for funding at the same time, we may have to make some choices about which one we fund and when. And so it can be based on lots of different stuff. And so we always encourage you to apply again and ask for help, ask for feedback. A big part of this organization and a big part of what we do with microgrants is we want to give you skills, give you ability to do this kind of work, to ask people for help, to fill out these applications. So you can always contact me, the microgrants@karmaforcara.org email address, and ask for feedback on your applications. If you get a denial response from our application process, you can always contact me for feedback on your application. And I'll go through with you and talk about what are some strong points, what are some weak points, and what are some reasons why you may have not gotten it in a certain round, because we want to help you refine your application as best as possible for the next round. If you have any items in there that we can't fund or that you specifically made you ineligible, we can also let you know that as well. So we want to help you learn how to get through this process and develop these skills. I had a question from Sophia Hansen. And Sophia, if it's okay, I'm actually going to invite you to ask your question out loud to the group and give you mic access, if that's okay. If not, you can decline, but I'll send you an invitation.
Hello?
Hi, Sophia.
It's actually Bella's asking the question. She's using
great.
my phone. We're together. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Bella.
great.
Yeah, so I wanted to apply for the second year.
Okay, yeah, can you just read your question for us really quick, just so we can all understand
So
more
I
about your
ran a
project?
national poetry contest for 2020 for like why Black Lives Matter, and I planned in response to the killings of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. And I wanted to apply for the 2021 launch. I'm doing the contest again next year. And the project will be on Nickelodeon's Kid of the Year special. I was top 25, and they did a profile of me for the program, and I didn't know if I would be eligible.
So when are you planning your 2021 program?
It's going on now, and it will be over by about the summer.
I think it's the summer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so currently, as all of you know, and many of you who are attending today probably know as well from our website, we have grants are suspended in the interim because of COVID-19 and because of the social distancing measures in place all across the country. We're hoping to resume at some point in 2021. Currently, we're only suspended through 2020. And we'll be making announcements as soon as we can kind of have a better prediction and a better understanding of what things we might want to do moving forward. So we'll encourage all of you definitely to follow us closely on social media and on our website for that announcement. So as soon as it comes up, you can know exactly when the next deadline is to reopen. But for your project for next year, you said you're running it through the summer. Essentially what you need to do is look at what is the specific thing that you're looking for funding for, and come up with a list of like materials and things that you want to get funded to request from us, and then figure out when you would need that stuff. So maybe if you're doing a specific event in like May, that would probably be within either the January or like April cycles, depending on the timing. And so kind of like getting yourself prepped and start thinking about what you're going to be requesting specifically. And that'll kind of tell you when to apply and if you'll be eligible. Like I said, there's only very certain specific things that we don't fund, which is things like transportation, stipends, space and facility rentals, things like that. But generally, if it's materials can be used for your project, you're welcome to apply and you should be eligible. But I would be happy to help you work through any details too.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, anything else? Does that help answer your question? I know it's kind of a complicated answer.
Yeah, so I will come up with a plan and get email you.
Yeah, that sounds great. And we're definitely looking forward to seeing an application from you. Thanks. All right. Let me just check and see if we have any other questions. All right, great. I'll turn it over one last time to our panelists. Any of you have anything you wanted to add or to cover talking about your process with applications? Any of you that have gotten multiple applications, if you have anything to share about like what the process was like to do it again, was it easier the second time around? Was it harder the second time around? Did you have new things that you were looking for? Just anyone in the room who wants to share kind of more about their process with applying.
I just have a quick thing to say, specifically for maybe the younger kids who are looking to apply. Often I feel like kids think, myself included, that I had to use like flowery language and big words that I didn't fully know the definitions of, and make it sound as sophisticated as possible. But really, when you just write from your heart and write with passion, doesn't matter how big your words are, how sophisticated you sound, your passion comes through, and that's what matters the most. So that's what I just wanted to add really quick.
I think that's absolutely very well said and very well put. I mean, it is really like reading through applications. We get lots and lots of applications in every round, and we definitely, it's kind of a balancing act. It's kind of, you want to tell your story in a really strong, compelling way, get across the emotions and the feelings that make you want to serve others and serve your community. We want to hear that, and it's going to make your application strong, but at the same time, like being concise and short and just getting it across with confidence, and showing that you've spent time thinking about this and researching this, and that you can just state it plainly without using, like you said, flowery language and things like that, is also really important too. So it's definitely a balance between the two, and it's not a competition to see how long your application can be. So you can definitely keep it short and focus on covering the things you need to cover, and not necessarily worry about meeting like a word limit or a letter limit. I have had applications that have been super strong that are very short, just a couple of paragraphs with a really great budget attached, a really great project idea. And I've had applications that are like pages and pages long that by the time we get through to what your actual idea is, it's really hard to understand the story of why this is something we would want to fund. So being short, being concise can be really helpful. Absolutely. And thanks so much for that. Any other panelists want to weigh in kind of on the process or anything else they have thoughts on that?
I guess one thing that we thought about a lot. We've only gotten one Karma for Cara grant, though we're probably going to apply for more in the future. But in our one, like I know you mentioned earlier that maybe a lot of different people are doing a community garden or something along those lines, and so if you can think about the kind of impact your project will have, maybe on a more community level, you could do something like add something to your project that's not that hard to do, but just makes you stand out a little bit more than something that's more generic. And so like I remember we had a couple of different things that we talked about in our application that we wanted to do. And so I think that helped in at least helping us like stand out from other applicants. And so we might not have had a lot of competition in like our specific area.
Yes, definitely. I think that's also really great advice, is trying to think about what are the unique things that you can do that put your application above others in terms of the actual content of your program, right? So like your project, when you're planning your project, thinking about extra things that maybe are specific to your community. And it really all comes down to knowing exactly what is the problem you're trying to solve, trying to address, who are you serving, finding out those details and doing that research ahead of time is going to be really big to setting your application apart, because those details really come through in the writing in your application. We can tell when someone's an expert and when someone's passionate about their project versus when it is kind of something that you may be just starting to think about and just consider. And that doesn't, I mean, every journey starts with kind of that first step. So you're welcome to apply even if it's early on and you maybe don't have all the research and all the knowledge yet. We want you to learn and grow with us. But that's really what's going to separate those early projects from the ones that get continued funding, is having that knowledge to back it up. Awesome. Anything else from the panelists? All right. I'm going to cover one last part of the application process, which is just the rubric. So in the guide that I sent out to all of you, there is a rubric there that lists kind of some of the key elements that we review. And so we will score them on like a 1 to 4 scale from each application. And this will really give you a good kind of basis to build off of when you're thinking about how to write your application. And then, like we said, keeping it concise, keeping it short, keeping it together based on these things. And so I'll pull this up one more time. All right, so this is the rubric. So there's a few different categories basically that we look at. And you can find this, like I said, this is just in the packet that I sent out to all of you, and we can also email it out later if you need another copy. But so we look at your budget. So the budget is really, really critical. We want to know that your budget is like realistic, that it's based on some research, that maybe you've gone to certain stores, you've looked on Amazon, you've kind of tried to do your best to come up with actual prices for things. That's a huge, huge thing that helps get your budget into like a high 4 category. But we just want to see as much detail as possible in a realistic, well-researched sense. Student leadership. So the second item on there, student leadership is really big. We do see a lot of projects that come from community organizations or from schools or from churches and like bigger groups that clearly have lots of students involved, lots of parents involved, teachers involved. While everyone needs support and everyone needs partners, the real like core of what we were trying to do at Karma for Cara is empower those student leaders. So we need to see in your application that the student leader who's applying, or the group of you who are applying, are really the ones behind the wheel driving this project, that you're passionate about it. And we want to be able to hear that through your writing. And then if you were to be called in for our interview, we do phone interviews as well, hear that in your voice in the way that you talk about your project. And it's really, all of the presenters and panelists here today have done an amazing job being the student leader example that we want to see in our successful applicants. So you can kind of take from their presentations and from the way that they talk and the level of leadership that they show as to kind of what we're looking for in strong student leadership. So student involvement and service learning. Involvement is a big thing. We want all students to be involved, from the ones who are leading the project to other volunteers to other people. And one of the questions that's going to be in the project section is an estimated number of students involved in your project. So it really helps us kind of get a grasp on your level of involvement and the number of people that you're able to pull in and help as well. Impact on the community and sustainability. This is kind of two together. So impact in the community is going to be how wide does the circle of the impact of your project go? How many people are you helping? And it doesn't have to be huge. I mean, it could be just a small part of your school or a part of your town or community. Because as you saw today with the panelists, a lot of these projects, they grow from a very small starting point. And that's the whole idea of these microgrants. They're seed funding. They'll help your project grow into something bigger. So it doesn't have to be a massive number of people. But what we want to see to get a project into that high 4 category for impact is just that you've kind of thought out a way in which this project is going to help lots of people, and a way that it's going to be spread throughout the community, that's going to have an impact on others, that kind of ripple effect. And just being able to explain what that is, whether it's a huge number, 10,000, or whether it's 15, just being able to demonstrate that that impact will be strong and profound. Sustainability, the second part of that one, is just about the kind of long-term future of your project. So is it something you can pass down to other students? If you are 17, 18 applying for the microgrant and you're about to go off to college and next year you won't be eligible to apply, is there someone following your footsteps you can pass it on to? That's a really big thing that we like to see, because we want to be able to fund continuing projects and keep you involved in the leadership of them. And then logistics. So logistics, the last one, is kind of more about just timeline, when your project is happening. What are those detail-oriented logistics things, and do they make sense? If you're applying for a project that's going to be 2 weeks after the deadline, logistically, we won't be able to review the application and get you funds in time for it to be funded. So that would be a project where you would probably get a response from us fairly quickly saying, so sorry, it's not going to work out this round. If you're doing this again in the future, you can apply again. But the logistics part of it is really kind of those details as far as when the project is happening and how it's going to physically happen, just making sure that all of that makes sense and is feasible. And that's kind of the rubric. So like I said, you all have this in the guide packet that we sent out. So feel free, for those of you in the room who are considering applying for a microgrant, to use that to kind of guide you through the process of structuring your application and looking at what kinds of things we're interested in as far as successful applications. Anything else from any of our panelists, Aaron or Blair or Jill in the room today, who've been around for a long time with these grants? Anything else you guys might have to add to this?
I think you said it all.
Great. I'm glad that we can get as much covered as possible, and just kind of give you all who are joining us with this dream of maybe one day applying or applying again, giving you kind of some tools and some understanding of how the process works, because we get lots and lots of questions. And I always welcome anyone to email me at the microgrants.com for Cara email address with questions, but we wanted to kind of give a forum opportunity for you guys to have these discussions with us for some of these common questions and ideas.
Great job.
All right, so moving on to our last part of the day, last part of the presentation. We've heard from all of these amazing panelists, amazing speakers today with their awesome stories of ways that they have been able to turn their ideas into these opportunities to help their communities and beyond, and stretching into effects on other people, I mean, around the world and across the country, and just the massive, massive impact that all of us in this room today have been able to make on other people. It's huge, and it's kind of, when you step back and think about it, it's like almost an overwhelming feeling of just from this small place of a microgrant of $1,000 or less, starting your project and being able to grow into something that's so huge and so profound and so impactful. So we just wanted to take one last time to any of our panelists, if you have any last kind of comments or anything you wanted to say to the attendees in the audience who are in the room today before we give our final notes. I'll invite you guys one last time to kind of check in and speak.
I guess I would just recommend everyone to apply, even if you're unsure. Just give it a shot, and it never hurts, and you can always try again if you don't get it.
All right, I won't torture you all. we're not going to do cold calling, but thank you, Emma. That's definitely very well said and a very good point. If you don't succeed, please try again. And this definitely applies to the microgrant program and to getting involved with service and volunteering and everything. We definitely want to encourage you all to keep trying, keep applying, keep coming back to us and getting that help. Because really, in addition to just funding these projects, we want to be able to help you learn about how to go through this process and do these applications and everything as well. So a couple of things, 3 kind of big points that we want you to take away from this as you're thinking about Well, it's almost the end of 2020. This has been a crazy, difficult, challenging year that we're all going through together, and it can be really lost and aimless sometimes, and it's hard to figure out what can I do next, especially if you're someone who is concerned about trying to help the world and help the community. So what are some of the things you can do now? Well, you can engage with us on social media and our website, like I said, to number one, get connected with the amazing stories of all of the panelists that are here in the room today, the many, many others. We funded 247 projects since the start of Karma for Cara, so there's many, many other stories to tell of successful student leaders. So please connect with us on social media so you can see those stories, and also so we can announce the return of the microgrant program for those applications. Which brings me to number two. We would love to have all of you who are here today who haven't applied, or maybe have applied in the past and not gotten it, or have applied in the past and have gotten it, to apply again and to join us. Keep us updated on what's going on with your projects. Keep us in the loop. Tell us ways that we can support you. Apply for support for the next big round of ideas that you have. That's number two way to get involved. Number three is, if you are feeling inspired by the end of this conference and by all the great stuff that you've heard today, which I think it's hard not to, you can also, but maybe you don't necessarily know yet exactly how you want to run your own project or do your own organization. One of the ways that you can get involved is just to donate to Karma for Cara itself. Donations to Karma for Cara help run this organization and help sponsor other microgrants and keep the mission running for this organization. So like I said, if you're not in the position right now where you know exactly what your passion is and what you want to do, but you know that you're passionate about other young people, about other students, and about these projects, you can donate to Karma for Cara and help support the kind of work that we're doing, like we talked about at this conference today. There's lots of ways to do that directly through the website. If you are, fundraising is a big thing for all of us. Everyone needs money. But if you are someone who has a birthday, which I think most of us do, the Facebook birthday fundraisers are a really, really cool and fun way to kind of get connections and like let your family and friends know things that you're passionate about and raise funds for a cause that is important to you, even while you're at home and even in a year like this where you don't get to go out in public and maybe do fundraising drives. So the birthday fundraisers on Facebook are a really cool way to support organizations, and you can set Karma for Cara as your beneficiary organization through that program as well. So we'd love to share a birthday with you and have you support other students in that way throughout the year. So these guys, oh, go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, the month of December, we're matching all gifts.
And the month of December, matching all gifts. So another great incentive to get behind helping some of these other amazing projects and keeping this mission moving. So there's lots and lots and lots of ways to get involved and to get back out there, even if you can't necessarily be volunteering in person, be going to the places you would normally go, seeing the people you normally see. There's still plenty of ways to get your project rolling, to get started, and to get connected with us. And beyond that, the last thing is always just kind of keep your eyes open, keep your heart open, look for these opportunities around you, look for the things around you that make you feel compassionate, that make you feel strongly, that make you feel connected to other people. Pay attention to those signs. Because every one of the panelists who have talked today, everyone else in this room, they all started from one small moment. Whether it was sharing a class project with a couple of friends that turned into this amazing organization, whether it was just finding a specific issue that you cared about, whether it was doing research and learning about what food insecurity looked like in your city, whether it was just engaging with people just to make them smile and just to be nice. All of these projects and all the projects that we receive through our microgrant program all start from somewhere, from kind of like a little grain of sand that just kind of ignites that larger mission inside of you. So one thing that any of us can do as we navigate the rest of this year is just keep our eyes and our hearts open for that little kind of grain of sand that might be the foundation for the rest of your future and for your passion. So we definitely invite you to engage with us, to stay connected with us. All of our information is in the guide packet today as well. And we'll be sending out some emails afterwards with links to the presenters' videos and to recordings of this conference that you can share with your organizations, your friends, and anyone else who might benefit from what we did here today. But with that, I would like to say thanks and turn it over to any last words from anyone else in the room.
Great job, everybody. Fantastic organizational job and leader. Logan, amazing. Great job. So impressed and inspired.
Thank you guys so much. And with that, that's all we have. I'll be in the room a little bit longer, so if any of the attendees who are here today that feel like they might have other more specific questions, feel free to hang around for a little bit, post things in the chat, post Q&A. I can also promote people to have mic access if you want to talk with me directly. But other than that, we are officially dismissed, and we will be posting recordings in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Logan. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye.